Okay, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session. Hi, good evening or good afternoon. So, with me here, we have Ugochi, and Ugochi is going to be the moderator for today's session. Hello, Ugochi.
Hello, everyone.
You can go.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Yeah. Um. So I can't see those on YouTube like on my screen.
Okay, you will not be able to see our audience on YouTube. We can just notice the eye icon there that people have joined. So we only have one person live now on YouTube, but you can go on.
Okay. Okay. So welcome everyone, and the person with us on YouTube currently. Right. So um, I'll be introducing myself, and the host will be introducing herself. So my name is Ugochi, Nuel Ugochi, and I'm a community manager for youth-led organizations, and I also moderate spaces for communities. Yeah, and so today we also have our host Edidiong, and I'll be passing the mic for her to introduce herself. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, Edidiong, you can introduce yourself.
Afternoon. My name is Edidion, and I'm a community so
So I think there's a glitch somewhere. I can't hear you. Hello, Jochebed. Can you hear her?
I can't hear her, but I'm here, but I can't hear her. I think she's muted or something.
Okay.
While she's maybe going on with the network, I think you can just continue, just so that we don't lose momentum
Okay.
or something.
Okay. Okay, that's good. Okay, so while we're waiting for it long, I would want to introduce our guest to everyone. And she goes by the name Jochebed Nuel, and she's a community manager and operations professional, passionate about creating spaces where members feel valued, connected, and supported. Right? She also specializes in community engagement and operations, helping communities run smoothly while building the systems, structures, and processes that keep them organized. She's intentional and people centered as she believes that great communities are intentionally built. And she has worked across events, education, travel, and professional development communities, supporting member engagement and community operations. Now, outside of community management, she is a French language coach and culture and heritage enthusiast who enjoys exploring new places and learning about different cultures. So maybe if you have a flair for traveling, you can hit her up for travel recommendations. Yeah. So Now we've known more about our guest, right? And I know we saw the topic for today's community learning. So I want us to, I'll be explaining what community learning is about. Sorry, can you still hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
I can hear you.
Okay. So there might be first timers amongst us, and I need us to understand what community learning is about. So it's a program where community managers and professionals speak on topics related to community management and building. Now, the end goal is to help our listeners grow in their career as community managers and to help them understand that it entails, right? And so that's what community learning is about. So today, the topic for today is the backbone of thriving communities. And so I guess most of us are members of communities where we felt seen, we've met people, we've learned things across different fields. And now most of these communities, there are a lot of work that have been put in by the community manager that we do not see. The silent work that is done behind the scenes, right? So this is something that we do not see, and this is what we'll be learning about. Why exactly do these communities thrive? What makes them different from every other community? And so that's what Jochebed is going to be unpacking with us today. And I would want you to listen attentively because at the end of the session, you would have the opportunity to ask your questions and just say anything based on what she's here to teach us. Yeah, so Jochebed, you can go ahead.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much to the host, Edidion, and our moderator, Ugochi. I'm so excited to be here and I'm so excited for what we're going to be learning today. And I hope that at the end of this session, we actually leave here with practical steps that we can implement almost immediately in our communities. So I would be sharing my screen. Just give me a minute so that we can all follow through while I'm speaking, so that I'm not just speaking to myself alone, so that we can see what I'm talking about. All right, so I need a yes in the comments if you can see my screen, or in the chat, in the live chat. I need a yes if you can see what I'm sharing, just so that I know that we can all see it before I move on. Okay, I can't see anyone saying yes, they can see my screen or not. I'm hoping that my screen is showing. All right, thank you once again. And so I'll just get on with it. And I hope that as people join in, they can just get on the flow of what we're talking about today. So the topic is the backbone of thriving communities. And this is basically a framework for growth and sustainability. And this is something that I always use, even outside being a community manager. This is something that cuts across different industries. Is the goal is that you just make it work for you. So you could be a community manager in Web3, in events, in professional development communities, and travel agencies. Just at the end of the day, just but bring this down to how we can best serve your community, or how we can best serve your brand, right? So I have a question. When you look at a community, what do you say when you look at a community? Why do you say the community is thriving? Why do you say the community is thriving? So a lot of times we say that, oh, the community is thriving because of the active members, community is thriving because of the conversations they have, the community is thriving because of the events, the engagement, the growth. I mean, if we look at all of the communities that we admire, let's say ALX, Alt School, She Code Africa, CMX, they have so beautiful experiences. They have beautiful organized events. They have high participation in their engagement. I mean, their members, we can almost always see them engaging on LinkedIn and everywhere. And most of the time, when people see these things, we say, "Oh my God, this community is thriving." But there's another aspect of community that we're going to we're going to see today that actually make all of these things show. And active members, conversations, engagement, I like to call them experiences, right? So these are the experiences that we all see. We see the organized events, we see the engagement, we see the active members, we see the if you're a member of one of these communities, you experience their onboarding. But all of these things are experienced, and there's something that holds them together. There's something that glues them all together to make it happen. And so I like to say that what brings them all together is the roots. The root is what brings them together. And in that root, we have three branches. I like to say we have three branches in the roots. And then we have the fruits. So the roots that holds all of these things together is called operations. And then the three branches is the framework, which I'm going to be introducing to us. Is the framework which I'm going to be introducing to us shortly. And then so the branches is SSP. Let's keep that in mind. SSP. We're going to come back to it. And then from the branches, we have the fruits. And the fruits are what I like to call the experiences that the engagement, the events, the high active, the member participation, the growth. The root has three branches, which then gives birth to some of these fruits that we see, right? So I'm going to use another analogy about buildings. I mean, when we go to maybe we see an office building, our apartments, we go to a shopping mall, we go to a hospital. The first few things that we notice is how beautiful, for example, the shopping mall might look, how beautiful the school is, the aesthetics, maybe the greenery, if they have a sports center, their furnitures, and all of that. But I don't think that we ever walk into any of these places and think about the foundation. I don't know. I don't think anybody ever does that. Like you walk into somewhere and they are like, what cement did they use? Did they use Dangote cement? Did they use Bois cement? Is this foundation strong? Nobody asks that kind of question. Nobody sees any of that, right? So it's the same thing. Okay, yeah. So I already talked about old school ALX. We see their organized events. We see their members on LinkedIn saying, "Oh my God, I just graduated from this." We see everything, even for community learning. People see they are making posts, they are inviting people, but then so everybody sees the organized event, everybody sees the high engagement, everybody sees the effective communication. But then what they don't see behind the scene is that to make the event organized, there's probably an event checklist. To make seamless onboarding, there are workflows, there are documentations, there are standard operating processes. That is what a lot of times members don't see. And it's funny because what members don't see is actually what takes our time as community managers. It's not even the doing GM, how are we doing. There are a lot of things that happen behind the scene. And what I want us to do, expecting or I'm hoping that we do today is strengthen our work behind the scene so that we don't put too much, there's not too much, we don't waste too much energy on the experiences people can see. Because once there's a problem with the backbone, the community feels it. So if there's a problem with the backbone, the community feels it. And if the backbone is great, the community feels it as well. The impact might not be immediate. For example, if a foundation of a building is bad, you might not see it in maybe 10, 20, 100 years, but the day it decides to crack, the building comes down. That's the same thing with community management. We might not see the operations, but whenever there's a crack or whenever there's a problem with the operations, it will start to affect all of these experiences. Our events will maybe be chaotic. People will not experience great member onboarding. Our maybe SOP documentation, all of these things, the conversations won't be great. People will lose interest because there's a problem with operations. And so, okay, so this is a question that we can, think about while we go on with this session. What's one thing your members don't see, but it takes a lot of time? And if we could put that, put the answer in the live chat, that would be perfect. But if not, you could just think about it. What's one thing that as a community manager you do that takes your time behind the scene, and your community, they don't see this thing happen, they just experience it, but they don't see that things like this take time. So while we're thinking about our answers, I'm going to be taking us through what community operations is. And I'm hoping that we've laid the background to say the backbone of thriving communities is operations. So what we're going to be talking about, or what we're going to be looking at, is why community operations matter, right? Or why operations matter in community management, however you want to put it. So here I say community operations is the work behind the scenes that make a community run smoothly. So we have already established that there are things members see and there are things members don't see. So community operations is basically the things that members don't see that make the community run smoothly. So a lot of times people think that it's community management versus community operations. Well, if you are working with a brand or an organization that has budget to employ 2 people, that's fine. But usually, community operations supports community management. So we as community managers, this session is going to help us. Even if your brand doesn't really care so much about operations, it's going to make your work effective. It's going to take off a lot of burden from you to function properly as a community manager. So it's usually operations that supports community management. It is not, there is no war between the two. When operations is done right, community management becomes seamless for us. So another thing about community management is community operations are the systems, structures, and processes that allow a community to function. So if we remember the SSP framework, I shared with us earlier, SSP, which is systems, structures, and processes. It could be SPS, it could be PSS, however, but this is the framework for community operations. And so we're going to be diving into these 3. I'm just going to go through them as fast as I can. So if you have any questions, you could put them in the chat box. In the live chats, excuse me, you can put them in the live chat, and if it's something I can pick up while I'm speaking, perfect, but if not, we can just wait till the end. All right, so our first S is systems, and then systems in general term is, these are our tech stack, what we use to get the job done. These are where we store maybe our information. These are where information flows, right? So for project management tools, we could use Notion, Airtable, Google Drive, CRM tools, your engagement platforms. I know that these days a lot of tools are coming up. A lot of people are building so many tools, but it's best to know what works for your community and streamline to that. So you don't have to use ClickUp, Airtable, Notion, Google Drive, Microsoft. It will be too much and your information will be scattered. So for systems, know what you need to get the job done, and then just have them as your systems, have them in place. Let us know that, oh, as a community manager, if you need a database of your community, you know that you save them in Notion. If you need to go through a survey form that you shared, know that the answers are maybe in Google form or type form. Your engagement platform, you know you are using Discord. You don't have one community and then your members are scattered in 5 different platforms. You know that, okay, my community is on Discord, my community is on Slack, my community is on Circle, wherever. So these systems just help us get the job done as community managers. And so without systems, the documentation get lost. I know that a lot of times, like me, I like to use my notepad a lot. But then when I use my notepad, I'm transferring it immediately to one of the systems that I've curated to work for the community I serve. So when we have systems, without systems, documents get lost. So now you're looking for your member database and you can't remember where you saved them because you're using like 15 systems, you're using like 100. The information is scattered, and then you waste time looking for documents because you have not properly set up your system to work for you. So this is not a reactive phase. It's you being proactive, you knowing that you need to set up all of these things in place so that you can make your work faster, you can work more efficiently. And so with systems, information is accessible. Your team, either you or your team, works faster, and then there's consistency in experience. Members know that when they want to fill a survey form, they are using type form or they are using Google Form. Some members are not receiving type form and other members are receiving Google Form just because you haven't structured your systems properly. All right, so the next one we're going to be talking about is um, structure. Now, structure helps us with clarity. It defines our roles and responsibility. So I know that I'm talking to community managers here, but some brands that you probably work with have different roles. So maybe you have a social media manager, you have a content creator, there's someone that handles graphics, there's someone that handles ads. And so structure helps you know who does what. As your community manager, I am not doing graphics because I know my role and I know my responsibility, and it has been stated from beginning. And then structure also helps us to know who we report to. And most times for community managers, we usually report to the marketing lead. That's what I know. I don't know if there's any other person that people report to, but we usually report to the marketing lead. And then a good example of structure is I worked with a company, with a brand, an events brand that so one of those days the operations person, they had budget for operations separately from community management, and so the operations came to the Slack channel and then she tagged me. She was like, "Hi Jochebed, we are low on ticket sales, please get the numbers up." At first I'm like, I don't understand. First of all, so the brand had so much structure that I knew it wasn't my role. And it was funny because usually things like this go through the marketing manager, then she relays it to us under the marketing team. And so the marketing manager jumped on the Slack channel and she's like, Jochebed is not in charge of ticket sales. And I'm like, yes, perfect. She's like, she's not in charge of ticket sales. So she comes to the marketing channel and is like, she then mentions something to the social media manager and the email marketer. Apparently, the social media manager and the email marketer scheduled, okay, so the email marketer scheduled emails to go out and the emails hadn't gone out. I don't know what happened with the automation. And so because we had everyone's roles were defined, the email marketer could say, oh, I scheduled an email to go out and I didn't know it hadn't gone out. I didn't check. And then it was easy to point that, okay, this person is the one that is supposed to do this. Jochebed is not the one that's supposed to do this. I'm your community manager. I get conversations going around the event, but ultimately, I'm not the one to bring tickets. I would just follow up with people. Oh, have you gotten your ticket? How many people are you coming with? But ultimately, it wasn't my role. So that's an example of a good structure because now, so if there was no structure, nobody will take accountability. The email marketer person would have just kept mute. The social media manager, in fact, the marketing lead would have just kept mute. Nobody would have said anything. And then the ticket sales wouldn't have gone up because nobody owns the tax. And so we would have missed the deadline because I think the event was for a Saturday and this was Wednesday and we had pretty much low number. And if there was no structure, all of us under the marketing team would have been scrambling to see how we could bring up the ticket sales. But because there was structure, we were able to collaborate. Like, okay, email marketer, what's happening? Why hasn't this thing gone out? And the social media manager is like, oh, Jochebed, I need your help to do this. You do this better. Could you assist me with this? Everyone knew what they were supposed to do. The email marketer took accountability for not. Well, she did her job, but then for not following through. So this is what structure helps us do. Nobody's guessing what they are supposed to do. Nobody's taking the blame for anybody. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do. So for now, bringing this home to community management now. In your community, maybe your community has interns, volunteers. They are supposed to know what they are supposed to do. So if you have an assistant community manager and then you're carrying out the burden alone, that means there's something wrong with structure because tasks will be left undone. And then once you don't tell people what they are supposed to do, they would deadlines would miss, there will be no accountability, and oh, I forgot, oh, I thought it was you that was supposed to do it, oh, I thought. All of this drama can be avoided once you have your structure put together. And so the last one we're going to be talking about under the framework is processes. Processes are repeatable ways of doing things, so they help with consistency, and I'm going to explain this as much as I can. So processes in terms of welcoming members, say you have a way of welcoming members, you have a way of planning your events, you have a way of onboarding, you have a document for frequently asked questions. One community builder I respect so much, she always says that when you repeat a task up to 5 times, it's high time you automate that task. Now, what does this mean? Say, for example, you plan events a lot, maybe in-person events or virtual events, and then you send reminders to people via email. Now, imagine if you have to send reminders from scratch every time, or you have to send emails by 6 a.m. and then by 5:45 a.m. you are waking up to draft your email and send. A good example of processes might just be to schedule emails. Funny story, I worked with someone 2 years ago that didn't like to schedule her emails. I don't know why. It was weird to me, and the relationship didn't last long because I'm like, I don't understand. She asked me to send an email, and the best thing to do is if I have to send these emails in repeats, I have to schedule them to make my work easier so I don't even burn out. And then she's like, oh, I don't schedule my emails. But we send, so for example, let me give a context. So you run and you manage an edtech community, and after every session, you have to send out emails to say, "Oh, thank you for joining the session today. Here's a link to watch the to watch the recording of today's session, and here's a link to the survey, to give your feedback about the session." Now, you know that this thing happens. Maybe you have sessions every weekend, and after every session, you have to send out this email. A good process would be to schedule this email so that if the session is ending by 4, by 4:10, these emails have gone through. Now imagine you don't schedule email and then by 4 o'clock you are drafting email, you are BCCing everybody. That's just an example of processes. And one example I like very much in processes is I worked with an agency, and so every month we onboarded maybe, let's say, over 10 people because of the nature of the job that we did at the agency. And so there was an edtech platform we were always using. Every time we onboarded someone, I had to schedule a meeting and show them how to use this platform. So imagine me doing that, and my time with them would take nothing less than 1 hour. So imagine me doing that 10 times in a month. That's 10 hours. And sometimes I couldn't group them because our schedule were always clashing. So imagine me doing that 10 hours every month. Of course, sometimes I'll be so exhausted. And then one day I thought to myself, I'm like, what if I record this? What if I record this platform, me teaching the platform, explain how the platform works, and keeping it on iCloud, on Zoom Cloud, right? Anybody that comes in, when we onboard somebody, I just send them the link that, oh, hi, please watch this, and let me know if you have any questions. I did that, and trust me, it worked perfectly. Like, I didn't have to spend 10 hours in a day struggling to fix my schedule or meet other people, and it just made my work easier. And so even when I was not on ground, the secretary or whoever was on ground knew that, oh, just send the link to the new staff, they know what to do from there. So that's an example of processes. And so without processes, excuse me, you have to start every task from the scratch. So imagine me setting up a Zoom call almost every time because I needed to teach somebody something. And I also realized that when I wasn't on seat and somebody else had to teach them how to use this platform, they were always reaching out to me. Oh, I didn't understand what she said. What was I supposed to do here? It's not because the person assisting me didn't understand how the platform worked. It was just because the way I would explain it would be different from the way she would explain it. And I was the programs coordinator, so I knew more about the tech tool than any other person. So the way she would explain it as a user, but I'm explaining it from the sense of, oh, I know how this platform works. So with with processes now, with the fact that I'd saved and saved recorded this process, the process of using the edtech platform, everybody that came on board had the same consistency in how to use it. And then it also saved time. There was no need repeating this over and over again. It could be as simple as how to start a Zoom meeting. Yeah, I know that, oh, we have AI now, there's YouTube, but just a how-to guide. A a volunteer joins your team, or your team lead says, oh, high praise, you'll be getting an assistant community manager. And then imagine the person has to reach out to you almost every time when they want to do something. Whereas you can just have how-to guides in your doc, how to onboard new members, how to do this, how to do that. It saves you all the time and stress, and you don't have to keep repeating things. And so if we could just drop in the chat box, what task do you keep repeating over and over again? And I said earlier, once you repeat a task more than 5 times, it's high time you automate that task. Except, of course, automation is way over the budget. But if it's not, please automate your tasks. And so, bringing all of this back to what we started with, members don't see all of these things. Members don't necessarily care, but then they'll feel the impact, whether it's good or bad. I remember the example I gave about a building, right? At the end of the day, we will feel the impact if the foundation of the building is strong or not. For good and bad operations, people feel the impact. And most times, people don't notice good operations because things are working well. But trust me, let something happen with one of your operational functions, and you'll see that people actually notice the impact of these things. So I'm going to be breaking down, like I said, operations can look different in different industry and communities, and then in different aspects. So let's take an example of member onboarding and good operations. So a member joins your community, they receive a welcome email, a welcome message, most times automated, which is perfect. They receive a welcome message. Sometimes they receive guidelines. I know that some communities send guidelines via email because sometimes it can be a lot. But then they receive guidelines and they have a first contact or a first friend. I'm going to explain that. So when there's good operations in member onboarding, members tend to engage immediately. So you join a community and immediately you are getting an automated message saying, hi, welcome to this community, introduce yourself this way. That way, the member knows how to start and knows how to participate. So, of course, they introduce themselves. I don't think any member would join the community with that kind of welcome and would not, maybe it would be 90 to 10% if they don't engage almost immediately, because your operations you've built your operations so good that a new member knows what to do in the community. And what I mean by first friend or first contact, maybe when the member introduces themselves in the community, you could say, oh, hi, this person, maybe also do the same thing. I'm sure you guys will connect better with each other. And then they have a friend. I remember joining the community, I introduced myself and I told them what I do, about a book club I ran. And then they tagged me to someone, another person in another country that does the same thing. And before you knew it, we kept chatting. She was like, oh, we need to jump on a virtual chat and exchange our books. We need to feed off from each other and see how we can make our communities great. Do you think that any member that joins a community like that is welcomed in that manner would not engage? I was excited to engage and just join. In fact, make best friends with the lady almost immediately because the member onboarding was very good. Now, bad operations in member onboarding is when a member joins and then there's nothing at all. Imagine you joining that kind of community. Nobody says welcome. They don't even act like anybody joined. You would be like, who asked me to join this community? I should have not even bothered myself. And then you will be inactive from day one because there was no way, you didn't even know how to participate. You didn't know if you to introduce yourself. There was just silence. That's a bad operations from the community manager's end. And then the member now becomes a passive member at the end of the day. And then you wonder why. Because their first impression of the community wasn't a great one. So this is an example of bad operations and good operations in member onboarding. So same thing with event flow and team flow. So before your event, good operations would be that there's a event planning checklist, there are tasks assigned, your speakers are briefed, reminders are sent. Community events in itself is chaotic. So making sure that you have all of these things in check before the event starts would save you a lot of time from last minute rush. I remember going on an event with a friend of mine. She was supposed to speak at the event. There was no communication to the day of the event. Fine and good. We get to the event and the venue had been changed and we didn't know about it. We kept looking around. We kept driving around like, where is this event? And then it was a stranger on the road that had to tell us that, oh, are you looking for the something that's supposed to happen here? Is at the other building now. That was red flag number one of bad operation. I mean, I was just like, okay, that is not, it's fine. Then we go into the event hall and they're like, oh, you're welcome. Then they sent her a consent form of over 10 pages. And so I'm like, how do you expect your speaker to just sign a consent to read through 10 pages an hour before an event and sign it? She had to send it to me to be like, please go through it and help me sign it. So a good operations in this sense would have been that your speaker should have been briefed first that the venue had changed, and secondly that they had to fill a consent form before the event. Same thing with team flow. If there was a proper good operations with the team flow, each team member, each volunteer, each intern, each ambassador would know what to do. Each member would actually know what to do. There will be accountability. For example, why weren't your speaker, why wasn't your speaker informed that the venue had changed? We will know who to hold accountable. And then say there's a problem. I think at some point the speaker came in late and then they were just running around. They didn't even know where to start from. If there was good operations, they would have known who to escalate the issue to and get it sorted out. Because you can't be a community manager in an event and then there's a problem and your guests know that there's a problem, or something is missing somewhere, your guests know that there's a problem, there's something wrong somewhere. Like I said, events can be chaotic. So being able to manage all of it properly beforehand is better. It just saves you from unnecessary stress. Okay, so we've looked at good operations and bad operations in member onboarding, in events, and team flow. So just bringing it all down to say, what is good operations, what is bad operations? With good operations, we have clarity. Like I said, everybody knows what to do. Bad operations, we have confusion. Nobody knows what to do. There's consistency, just like I explained with processes. Everybody knows how to do this. If we are welcoming a member, this is how we do it. Frequently asked questions, this is how we answer it. And not that you sound rigid, but you just know what to follow when you are handling things. There's reliability. Everybody knows who to count on. There's efficiency in the work. There's scalability and there's collaboration. Scalability is the sense that when you've covered your operations properly, you cannot think of scaling your community, maybe to add more regions or more people in the community and all of that. With bad operations, there's confusion, there's inconsistency, there's misaligned goals when people don't know what to do. There's stagnation because you can't then move up because your foundation is bad. So you can't even go to the next thing. And so, in summary, I said all of this to say that the backbone of a thriving community is operations. And we looked at the framework, which is systems, structures, and processes. And now, here I wrote, it doesn't have to be perfect. Your operations doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to perfect everything. Just build enough to start your community or build enough for your community. And so while the community grows, your operation grows. And with operations, you have to constantly say what is working, what is not working, what is slowing us down, what needs to be changed. Because you cannot have operations for maybe when your community was 10 members, excuse me, and then you want to use the same operations for when your community is 100 members. There will be a crack somewhere. So every time you must make sure that you go over data. That's why there are survey forms. That's why your events, you go over, you ask for feedback, and then you check your events after every event, for example, you go through your event checklist. Okay, what didn't we do well? What did we do well? You update your system, you update your structure. If you know that Notion is no longer serving you in your community, you update it. You just make changes. It doesn't have to be stagnant. It's just like when we have a machine or a car or a generator or whatever we use, we constantly have to make sure it is maintained. You constantly have to check what is oiled. You constantly have to check what needs to be removed, what needs to be added. It's the same thing with operations. Make it work for you, and then use data and insight to ensure that you are constantly updating your operational function. You're constantly checking your structures, checking your systems, checking your processes. And so I'll leave us with one thing to think about, that based on today's conversation, what is one operational change you're going to make in your community in the next month? It doesn't have to be 5 things. You can just pick one thing. Like I said, it might be as simple as automating messages. It might be as simple as documenting processes. It might be as simple as gathering feedback together and storing them properly. What is one operational change you are going to make in your community next month? I'm saying next month because it's a new month. So, new month, new you to make changes. All right. So, that would be all that I'll be sharing today. Thank you so much. And I'm sure that if we have any questions, now is the best time to take questions. So thank you, community learning. And I hope that we've learned one or two things. And I hope that we've also taken note of things that we're going to be implementing in our community. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jochebed. And so I must really say I enjoyed the session, and I love the fact that you used a lot of pictures to make it more relatable, and you likened it to something we're already familiar with, right? A tree, its roots and fruit, so it makes it stick. Yeah. So I would love to answer your question. So one operational change I would make in my community, and I think it would be automating processes that I do more often, right? So that it wouldn't, I'll have better clarity, and I'll also be more intentional with documentation. So in case there's someone else coming after me, person can learn from. So prior to this event, we had like questions on the Luma page that was posted on LinkedIn. There are two questions actually. So the first question is from Evergreen, and she says, I've been having thoughts around building or mending a community culture. And so I'm asking for practical ways to building a thriving community culture. Then the second question from, will you take it one after the other? I should just,
Let me take it one after the other because as you're about to read the second
okay,
question, I've probably forgotten the first question. So can you
okay.
take
So
the
let me read the question.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. So the question from Evergreen is, I've been having thoughts around building or mending a community culture. And so I'm asking for practical ways to building a thriving community culture over time.
All right. So building a thriving community culture over time. So in all of in all of what I've said, a lot of times the foundation of our communities starts with our strategy. And in when you're building a culture of a thriving culture in your community is making people, first of all, the culture, the process of building a community culture is that you make people feel that that community is for them. You make people feel that they belong to that community. You make people feel like that community has been built intentionally for them. So, for example, I'm going to give an example from a speaker I listened to one time, and then she said they were preparing for an in-person event for in another country, and so they during the time where people filled forms, they asked them some questions about what they love. Like, okay, say for example, I'm a Nigerian and I'm going to maybe Australia for an event. And then the people in Australia were like, oh, what's one thing that you would love to see in this event that will remind you of your country? I mean, I say fried plantain, for example. And when I get there, in my room, there's fried plantain. So in that way, you have built a community, a culture of intentionality. So they know that, oh my God, these people actually thought of me in doing this. And sometimes people build culture with emojis, right? When you join a community, there's a particular emoji they use. There are particular inside jokes that they use, or just a slogan that you call your members. It might be as simple as that. You join. I'm trying to pick a member community that has a name, as something as simple as a name that you call your members can go a long way in creating that culture. Like they know that, oh, welcome CLs. I don't know, I'm coming up with anything I can think of. But because they have that thing, they have something that they can relate with exactly. So that's the word I was looking for. They can relate to something in the community that makes them feel like, oh, this community, I'm part of something. I'm part of a family. I belong here. So when you are trying to build a culture that thrives, you have to build it along with your members. Yes, co-create this culture with your members. I cannot tell you, oh, these are some of the things you should do in your community to make it thrive. It's something that you do with your community. It can be as simple as, I'm using the name example again. Hi, people. We're working on a name we can call everyone in this community. What do you guys think we should talk about? Or what do you guys think we should call this community? You see that a lot of people will start giving you name ideas. Oh, we should call ourselves this, we should call ourselves that. They're excited about this because they are building it alongside with you. So a lot of mistakes we make as community managers is we go back, we build something from our head or something that we feel that the community would like, and then we dump it on our members. They won't engage because you have already done the background work, and then you are telling them this is what we are doing from now on. But when you co-create with them, oh, this is what I'm thinking we should do in this community. What do you all think? Then they share their opinions. In that way, you're building a community culture that you might not even take note of, but the community culture of showing them that they belong to this community, and then they are building the community alongside with you. I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I can so relate to the culture side. Um, so the next question is from Lalia, and it says, how can she engage an online fitness community? Because she's trying to build a community. So she didn't give much context, but I think it's something that she's trying to start from scratch, I think. So
You
it
see,
says, how
how can
can
she?
I engage an online fitness community? That she's trying to build a community.
Okay, like I said, one of the major things that we should start with as community managers is strategy. Now, there's no context to her question, right? So I cannot really say, but then I cannot come on this platform to say, this is how you engage your fitness people. First of all, who are your target audience? Fitness, fine. How old are they? What do they like doing? What do they enjoy doing? Where are they gathered? So all of these questions would help. All of these questions would be answered perfectly in a strategy document. When you have your strategy, in strategy you are looking at I'm trying to bring it off the top of my head. You're looking at systems, actually structures and processes. So what systems work for this community you're trying to build? What processes do you have to build? Do you have to put in place? What structure do you have to put in place before you now start talking about engagement? If we remember, when I first started this conversation, I said all of these engagement events, they are experiences. So why most people might be struggling, I know that generally there are always issues with engagement and all of that, but fundamentally, why we will struggle with this kind of thing is that there's something wrong with our strategy. Our strategy will help us build our operational functions properly before you can then start to talk about engagement. Because if you're telling me you are doing it's a fitness community, who are your target audience? Is it male fitness, women and female fitness? What are their goals exactly? So before you say you want to engage people, what are their goals? What values do they have? Why do they want to join the community? Why should they join your community before we even start to So engagement sometimes is the list of our problems as community managers. First is to put together our operational functions, and in this operational function, our strategy is very important. So when you can sit down and build a strategy, then from your strategy you can then know, okay, how what topics will they be interested in. Then you know that, okay, you have to send a survey form to your target audience, so that you are building something they want. You're not building something from your head, you're not building something that you think people will like, but you're building something that your target audience have told you this is the problem, and you as a community manager, you are creating a solution. You're not coming up with problems in your head and then thinking that, and then giving a solution to what people don't have a problem with. I hope I answered your question. And if there's a follow-up question, you can always reach out to Gideon or Ugochi, and they'll get back to me, and we can then dive into this properly.
Okay, so thank you so much, Fred. And I'll say my take home is community management building takes a whole lot of intentionality. Like, come on, the systems, the structures, the constant re-updating and everything shows that you have to be very intentional if you want to thrive in this career. Yeah. So I don't think we have any questions from the online audience. So I'll revert back to the host. Yeah, Eddie Young, in case you have something to say.
Hello, please can everyone hear me?
Yes, yes, I can.
Thank Okay, thank you so much, Jochebed, for coming on board. I really enjoyed your session, especially the breakdown you gave on community operations and how we can put all our systems in place. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And to all our audience, thank you for joining the session. It was a very wonderful time that we spent learning together. And I hope that you all will also join the session in the next episode for the community learning program. And Ugochi, thank you so much for moderating the session. So I want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. To have an amazing day. Bye everyone.
Yeah. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.